So with all the data security breaches out there, people are really, really scared about data privacy and making sure their data isn't shared with. So there's also a bunch of self-service BI tools out there. My favorite is Microsoft Power BI. But as with any new tool, there's always fear of change, fear of data security, privacy, and you want to make sure your data isn't shared with the world, right? Or the very really private. So join me in this quick video. Let's talk to Eamonn and Ian and John Pyro and see what Power BI is all about.
Oh, good question. Yeah, so I think there are at all different stages uh, of adopting it. So, for the person who starts building the reports, it might be excitement, that it does something that they want, and then fear of, oh man, now where was that thing again? I can't find it. Like there's a whole navigation thing that when you're just starting to build stuff in Power BI, I think comes up. Uh, a little further on, there's sharing that thing out with multiple people because you've worked on it hard and it's something new and you don't know if they're going to accept your idea. There's does management think that this thing that has been worked on is valuable, or are we still in proof of concept, and why aren't you just doing it the way we know how, right? In Excel,
Yeah.
like they told you. I think there's a little bit further out from that, you start to get, like, let's say you've got a little bit of traction, you've been working with a certain type of data, and now there's other data that would be really helpful, like more financial oriented, or just data that is treated a little bit more privately within an organization. So it's like, how okay is it to include this? And lots of people involved in that, and not necessarily always aligned on how, so you kind of have to work through some of those things. And each of those is and more, right? But so the security around the data, all that kind of stuff. But each of those is a fear point, and interestingly, it's often about like, how will other people interact with this, or how will other people need to weigh into this decision or judge my decision to use this approach, right?
Wow.
On behalf of users of something new, right? And some people just love it and they want to do it, but a lot of people who've especially worked in a large company or worked in a company for a long time, right, there are ways to do things, them, and so you're doing something new, you're putting yourself out there a little bit, and it feels risky.
Yeah. Oh, I've heard a lot of those fears through some of my clients. Yeah, that people have their silos. They protected the data before. Now you're exposing the data to the rest of the corporation potentially, and people can see where your own failings are. So there's a fear of having the data out there shared with the world. So that's fascinating. I think I'm going to take that clip of, and we're going to repost that, Ian. So we're going to wrap that in some. So I think that was a pretty powerful clip there.
Charles.
Yeah.
Just to add something further to what Ian said, is that certainly from a fear perspective, if I take it to a meta level, within all of the businesses out there, certainly what I see is that you have the innovators that are actually, from a corporate perspective, company perspective, running with the product. And what I'm finding is the sort of the mid level that are kind of waiting to see what their competitors are doing and who else is using it. Yeah. That's beginning to shrink. So I think from a sort of a meta fear level, it feels like the 3 to 5% of innovators, that's expanding really quite aggressively. Yeah. And it's pulling from that middle section that would normally wait a much longer amount of time before they'd ever actually look at implementing it. And I think part of that is the fact that, again, as I mentioned earlier, because it's coming from the Microsoft stable, I think there's a huge level of trust. And the fact that, although many people don't get it, the fact that it plays so well with Excel, I think that becomes, so I think from, as I say, a meta perspective, I'm seeing that fear that used to be quite intense, actually, it's becoming almost diluted in a really good way, because there's a lot more innovators actually looking at this. The percentage is getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, Eamon. That's an awesome trend, because we're crossing that chasm from early adopters kind of to the middle of the bell curve, where companies are starting to realize there's other people doing this. We need to catch up, and we have these fears, but if we don't alleviate and move forward and take action, because I'm getting a lot of inbound people too that are saying, I've heard about Power BI and I want you to come help us get on board if this train is taken off and we're behind. So